Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed the mop bucket down the empty hallway of Jefferson Elementary School. It was 11:30 p.m. and the building echoed with the familiar silence that had become his closest companion over the past 3 years. His daughter Emma was safely tucked into bed at home, watched over by Mrs. Rodriguez from next door, who never asked for a cent despite Marcus's insistence on paying her something. At 42, Marcus had learned that pride was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore. The custodial cart squeaked as he made his way toward the music room, the last stop on his nightly routine. As he unlocked the door, muscle memory guided him to the old upright piano in the corner. His calloused fingers, rough from years of cleaning chemicals and hard labor, found the keys with surprising gentleness. This was his secret sanctuary, the place where the dreams he'd buried could still breathe for just a few precious minutes each night. The melody that flowed from his fingertips was hauntingly beautiful, a composition he'd written during those dark months after Sarah's diagnosis. It spoke of love that transcends time, of hope clinging to life even when everything seems lost, of a father's promise to a daughter that somehow, everything would be okay. He'd titled it Emma's Light, though no one else would ever know that name. What Marcus didn't know was that Miss Jennifer Hartley, the school's young music teacher, had been staying late to prepare for the upcoming spring concert. She'd heard the music drifting through the walls and had quietly recorded it on her phone, mesmerized by its raw emotional power. The next morning, she uploaded the recording to her social media, writing, "Mystery musician at my school, this needs to be heard by the world." Within days, the video had gone viral. Music producers, record labels, and talent scouts were all trying to identify the anonymous composer. One producer, Alex Morrison, was so moved by the piece that he immediately bought the rights from what he assumed was the rightful owner, a struggling songwriter who claimed he'd written it. The song was quickly recorded by a popular artist and rushed to radio stations across the country. 3 weeks later, Marcus was driving Emma to her Saturday soccer practice when the familiar melody drifted through the car radio. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles went white. The DJ's voice filled the car. That was the #1 hit, Eternal Promise by Jake Sullivan, written by Danny Morrison. Folks, this song is breaking records and touching hearts nationwide. "Daddy, that sounds like your song," Emma said from the backseat, her 8-year-old voice cutting through his shock like a knife. "The one you play for Mommy." Marcus pulled over, his heart hammering against his ribs. His song, the melody he'd poured his grief and love into during the darkest period of his life, was making someone else rich and famous. The irony wasn't lost on him that his name was Marcus, meaning warrior, yet he'd never felt less capable of fighting. That night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus sat at his kitchen table with his laptop, a second-hand machine he'd bought so Emma could do her homework. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as he tried to figure out what to do. He had no recordings, no proof, no money for lawyers. He was just a janitor whose word would never stand against music industry executives. But as he stared at Emma's drawing on the refrigerator, a stick figure family with "I love you daddy" scrawled in purple crayon, something shifted inside him. This wasn't about money or recognition. This was about integrity, about the values he wanted to pass on to his daughter. Marcus spent the weekend teaching himself about copyright law, about music licensing, about how the industry worked. He discovered that Miss Hartley's original video was still online, time-stamped weeks before the song's official creation date. He found security footage requests he could make to prove he'd been in the music room every night for months. Most importantly, he realized he had something the thieves didn't: the complete song, including verses they'd never heard. Instead of hiring a lawyer he couldn't afford, Marcus did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He walked into the offices of Morrison Music Group on a Monday morning, still wearing his janitor's uniform, and asked to speak with Alex Morrison. The receptionist tried to dismiss him, but Marcus's quiet dignity and the folder of evidence under his arm convinced her to make the call. 20 minutes later, he was sitting across from one of the most powerful men in the music industry. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus began, his voice steady despite his racing heart, "I believe you've purchased something that belongs to me." What happened next would become legendary in music industry circles. Marcus didn't threaten legal action. He didn't demand money. Instead, he played the complete version of Emma's Light on his phone, a recording he'd made the night after hearing it on the radio, complete with additional verses and musical bridges that proved his authorship beyond any doubt. Then he told his story. He spoke about Sarah, about her battle with cancer, about being a single father trying to make ends meet while keeping a promise to his dying wife that their daughter would never want for anything. He explained how music had been his therapy, his way of processing grief while Emma slept. Alex Morrison, a man who'd built his career on tough negotiations and calculated risks, found himself wiping away tears. Here was a person who had every right to be angry, to sue for millions, to destroy the careers of those who'd stolen from him. Instead, Marcus made a proposal that would change everything. "I don't want to hurt anyone's career," Marcus said. "Jake Sullivan sang my song beautifully, better than I ever could. Danny Morrison is young and made a mistake. But I want 3 things. Recognition as the true composer, a college fund for my daughter, and a promise that you'll use your influence to help other artists protect their work." The resolution was swift and unprecedented. Morrison Music Group not only corrected the credits but created the Marcus Williams Foundation for Artist Protection, designed to help emerging and vulnerable artists protect their intellectual property. The story of the single dad janitor who showed mercy to those who wronged him spread faster than the original viral video. Jake Sullivan personally visited Marcus and Emma, not only apologizing but dedicating every performance of the song to Sarah's memory. Danny Morrison enrolled in ethics courses and became an advocate for copyright education. Most remarkably, the publicity led to Marcus being offered a position as a songwriter and consultant with Morrison Music Group, a job that allowed him to quit his night janitor shifts and be home with Emma every evening. But perhaps the most beautiful twist came 6 months later. Emma's soccer team was invited to sing at a charity concert, and Marcus was asked to accompany them on piano. As he played Emma's Light, now officially credited to him and renamed Sarah's Promise, his daughter's voice rose above the choir, pure and strong. In that moment, watching his daughter sing the song he'd written in his darkest hour, now performed in front of thousands of people to raise money for cancer research, Marcus understood that sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting for what's ours, but from choosing kindness when we have every reason to choose otherwise. The song that had been stolen became the anthem for a movement about integrity in the music industry. The janitor who could have sought revenge became a symbol of the power of forgiveness. And a little girl named Emma learned that her father wasn't just a warrior in name, but in the truest sense someone who fights for what's right while keeping love at the center of everything he does. As Marcus tucked Emma into bed that night after the concert, she whispered, "Daddy, Mummy would be proud of you." And for the first time in years, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that she was right.